Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond the Lines Coloring Podcast. I'm your host, Color Mama 360. It is time for another podcast episode. So, good morning, good night, good middle of the night, depending on when you're listening. I have another great, awesome, amazing interview for you guys today. So, I'm going to quickly cover some coloring news before we jump over to the interview. First up, the new polychromos colors are here, and some people have already been lucky enough to get their hands on those. Karen over at My Colorful Country Life has a video on them and a new color combinations sheet slash I think she's already added new color combinations with those pencils to palette kit. So definitely go over and check out Karen's channel and everything that has to do with those new polychromos. They are not even, as far as I know, available for pre-order where I'm at yet. So hopefully soon, but they're on my radar. I don't think they'll be in my hands anytime soon, but that's okay. Also, speaking of Karen and Palette Kit, if you haven't tried Palette Kit yet, I highly recommend checking it out. And I am saying that because I have found it to be such a useful resource. And Karen has done a really amazing job. I know she's worked really hard on that and continues to work hard on that on the back end. So if you're into like color gradients and color combinations and things like that, Palette Kit is really your go-to resource. And I'm saying that having tried it, having been using it, I probably use it every day. So that is my true honest opinion. If you haven't tried that out yet, I highly recommend it. It does have a free trial version and then there's a subscription. The subscription is probably one of the most reasonable subscriptions I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it is totally affordable, totally accessible. I highly recommend checking out Palette Kit if you haven't. I also wanted to talk about a video that I watched recently by Lottie at Cozy Paper Trails. She had a great haul recently with lots of popular books that I know we all enjoy. I really enjoyed her talking about them and talking about her recent editions. And I found it to be a great haul and I really loved her video. So if you haven't checked that video out or any of her other videos, I highly recommend checking her out at Cozy Paper Trails. Also in coloring news, Imogen over at Coloring Kid has been doing a destash for the last couple weeks. She posted an original video talking about the different books she was destashing, but at that time it was only open to those in the UK. She has now decided to open that up to those outside of the UK as well. So if you are interested in that, I would say go over to her channel and find the latest information on that to see what book she still has available. Now, a new coloring resource, I guess you could call it, that has come out recently is a Discord channel. Now, I know that there were other people involved in creating this, I believe, but the two I can think of off my head are Jess at Coloring Bumblebee and Auntie Chris. Again, there may be others, so sorry if I can't remember everyone involved, but they have created a Discord channel, and I highly, highly recommend reaching out to them to join if you haven't yet. If you're interested in being part of the coloring community in different ways, this is a really great resource, especially for those who might have like a YouTube or they watch YouTube videos, but they may not have an Instagram account or other types of social media. This is going to be your go-to resource. You can find buddy colors, you can share whips, you can share completed pages, you can figure out who's live streaming when. There's just so much going on over there. I highly recommend that if you want to be more a part of the coloring community, whether or not you have other social media, this is a great resource. And I would highly recommend you reach out to those two or anybody else involved to join. Amanda at Color Me Tartan is working on creating a coloring book, which she's been talking about on her channel recently. And she recently also released a free coloring page. So if you haven't heard about that or you haven't grabbed that yet, I highly recommend going over to her channel as well to grab that coloring page. It is so cute. I've already printed it out. I'm so excited to get to coloring it. And it gave me a look at what her style for the coloring book is going to be like, which is so exciting because it told me that it was going to be right up my alley. So I can't wait to hear more from Amanda on that. And then circling back over to Jess over at Coloring Bumblebee, she did open up her Romantic Country 3 collab. At the time I'm recording this, there are still pages left, but that may not be the case anymore. So make sure you head over to her channel for the latest updates on that. All right, guys. Well, like I said, we have a super fun interview again today. I can't thank this person enough for being willing to come on the podcast. So let's jump over now and listen to the interview. Okay, everybody, today's guest is someone who truly needs no introduction. If you've been in the adult coloring world for any length of time, you've undoubtedly crossed paths with her work. She actually launched her YouTube channel at just 14 years old. Now a well-established and beloved voice in the community, she is widely known for the variety of content she brings to her channel. Everything from completed pages to hauls to color combinations. Please welcome Imogen, also known as the Coloring Kid, to the Beyond the Lines podcast.
Hi,
Hi,
everyone.
Imogen.
I'm really
I'm
excited
so
to be here.
excited. Me too. I am so excited to have you here, and I'm so excited to learn more about you and your channel. It's going to be really fun.
Oh, thank you. Well, I've been away from, I haven't had a very good schedule for the past, 3 years since I've been at uni. So I'm sure there are many things that people have missed if they've joined recently.
Yeah, that is true. You recently graduated. I'm so excited for you. Are you glad to be done? Are you missing it already?
I think it's not going to hit. I mean, I haven't got my results yet, so my results should be in a couple of weeks, and then I think it will hit more when people start going back for the new year, and I don't. I mean, we start very late at Oxford; it's October, so I think it will take me a little bit of time to realise that, yeah, it's all finished. But I have to say, I'm very glad to be done with the degree. But like the social side, I will really, really miss a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of how I felt too. And
Good.
you'll have to remind me if I say college instead of university. I know you guys call it university, we call it college.
Well,
Just
we
let me
actually
know if
do
I
have
say it wrong.
colleges. It's very confusing because Oxford has its own separate colleges within the university. So I actually do go to a college. I went to Trinity. So you're not wrong there, actually.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's called a collegiate system. So we have like 39 colleges within the kind of university. And obviously, some universities are campus based, ours is city based. So yeah, it's a bit of a outlier, but it's yeah, the college system's very cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that for all my US listeners. I don't know if anybody else knew that. Maybe it's just me, but thank you because that is
No
really
worries.
interesting. Okay, Imogen. So walk me through how you started your coloring journey. What did coloring look like for you before you decided to hit record and start a channel?
So I was always colouring. I really can't remember a time where I wasn't doing something creative. My mum would be able to vouch for me there. But yeah, I think whenever Millie Marotter's first book came out, Animal Kingdom or Joanna Basford's Secret Garden, I remember getting those as presents one Christmas. In fact, I vividly remember, I think it was in 2014, having Secret Garden, and we were just about to go to South Africa for our holiday. And it was the book that I took with me. I think I just had a set of like 24 Faber-Castell Classic pencils. And before that, I was always creative. So I had like random, budget-friendly pencils in my collection that I'd just use. But that was very much just colouring for fun, not really thinking about what I was putting onto paper, not thinking about colour combinations. But before, I always wanted to have a channel. That was always something that I knew I would love to have to kind of be part of the community because obviously I was quite young. I didn't have Instagram. I didn't even have Instagram as kind of a social thing with my friends. I didn't really get that until I was 18. So for me, it was a way that I could actually interact with the community a bit more. If I could, I would have had one at 11, but obviously it wouldn't have been a very sensible decision. And I think I basically just kept talking to my parents about wanting to have a channel, and they finally let me have one at 14. And I'm, yeah, really thrilled that it's turned out the way it has.
That's really awesome. I Is there anybody else that you know of in the coloring community who started a channel as young as 14?
I don't think so. No, I think probably the person who was maybe closest in age to me at the time when I started was maybe Colouring Francis or someone like that. I remember being on a live stream maybe 2 weeks into starting my channel, maybe not even that. It was Colour and Chat with Sammy's live stream when she used to do them. And I think they were a bit confused when I joined because they didn't realise that I was actually kind of a serious colouring channel. I think, my name is a bit, you know, a bit odd in that sense that I'm doing adult colouring, but I have kind of branded myself as a kid. But I just felt like it worked at the time, the name. But yeah, it was always something that I was so chuffed to be able to do.
Was there anything that your parents were really worried about when they first let you start a channel?
Definitely, like a massive thing was always just my social media presence, I think. I didn't really show my face until I was 18. And even then, like, I really do love doing the vlog stuff now, but I am a bit cautious just what I'm putting out there, particularly as I've mentioned to a few people that I want to go into teaching. So I will just be very mindful. I've, nothing that is out there on social media I'm concerned about people finding out about, because, it's all very kind of, you know, safe, isn't it? There's nothing kind of weird or rude that I'm putting on my channel. So yeah, I think they were a bit worried about that at the start, definitely. But it's just a really lovely community and there's nothing really to be worried about. So yeah.
So, so you talked a little bit about your channel name. Um, how did you come up with Coloring Kid, and how has that evolved as you are no longer a kid?
Yes, so I really just liked the alliteration, I think, and I wanted something that, similarly to what Jess was saying, I wanted something that didn't give away my name in my channel name itself. I am thinking about changing my channel name now that I'm obviously over 21. I feel like it would be a bit funny to kind of carry on with the same name now that I've had the channel for so long. So I'm thinking I'll probably just change it to something a bit more simple, like colouring with Imogen or something like that. I haven't thought about it too much yet, but I do think that my not branding as such, but my channel name and the way I'm fronting myself does need to evolve a bit as my channel has evolved. So
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So we may see a change coming in the future.
100%, yeah, I'll be doing a channel update about that at some point.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I look forward to knowing how that evolves and just seeing you grow.
Thank
I
you.
understand. So we talked about how you recently graduated from university. Do you want to talk about kind of what that means for your channel moving forward?
Yeah, so I definitely will be able to get back into a normal routine. I mean, I've kind of had a few phases of the channel. So when I started, I was just putting out videos whenever I could. I didn't really know anything about the YouTube algorithm. I still don't, to be honest. But kind of knowing when I should be posting videos. I mean, it's never been about the views for me at all, but I just want to make sure that I get back into a schedule for my own benefit. Um, so yeah, and then the second phase was kind of during COVID. I was, doing videos every 2 to 3 days, which for me is insane. I could never imagine going back to that now. But yeah, definitely once a week, if not more. We'll kind of be moving forward from definitely September. And then I would really like to get back into doing some live streams as well. That was something that I really enjoyed doing and I do miss. It's just, the most interactive part of doing a channel, because as much as I love replying to comments, which I have been quite bad at recently because of being so busy, but as much as they are great at interacting, the liveness of live streams is just so wonderful. And then yeah, I'd like to maybe I love seeing people doing like weekly whip videos, or I might integrate that into a vlog style video. I'd love to keep doing those as well.
Ooh, that's so exciting. I would love to join one of your lives. I never have been able to. So that's super exciting. I'm
Thank
excited for you to
you.
get back to
There's not
that.
much colouring being done on those. It's more just chatting. I'm normally good at doing two things at once, but I think there's a bit more pressure to make sure that the colouring I'm doing, I'm kind of is still up to what the standard I'd normally do when I'm just doing it myself. And I sometimes get a bit distracted. So yeah, we'll see.
I think that's with everybody. I don't know that any coloring really ever truly gets done on
Yeah.
live streams. So looking back on your journey so far, and yours is a little bit unique because you started so young, do you want to share any of your most embarrassing moments from YouTube?
I think it's probably less so me and like things I have to cut out. So like some of the embarrassing moments you probably haven't even seen. It's like trying to get the house quiet is the hardest part because we're quite a musical family. My dad might be playing piano or people are talking. That is the hardest bit. I have had some things in live streams where which obviously I can't really edit out easily, but yeah, that is quite funny. I accidentally, I think, showed my face in a live stream, which I did have to edit out, and that was quite early on before I was 18, and I wasn't really comfortable doing that. And I also have a habit of saying a lot, which is something that I'm trying to rectify. I know it like annoys people a bit, but you know, I don't necessarily plan what I'm saying in advance. They're very much kind of sporadic and quite organic videos. Or at least I hope that's how they come across. But yeah, maybe I should. I don't really want to script it as such, but maybe just have pointers to say. I find colour and chat's quite difficult if I don't have a list of things that I want to talk about, because then I have this tendency to just ramble a little bit. So yeah, I think some of the embarrassing moments you probably haven't even seen is the answer to that.
100% with the color and chats though. Having like points is essential for me. Otherwise, nothing is going to make any
Yeah.
sense. um, so, and look, see, I say too every time. On kind of the flip side of community growth, some creators sometimes face tough moments. So aside from like more of those kind of silly, embarrassing moments, such as when I replied to Joseph Cadenbig not knowing it was him. Don't know if you heard about that, but we also sometimes face community moments when there might be times when we have to moderate things or remove things. Have you ever had to like remove a comment from a video, or have you ever had something happen during a live stream?
Less so in a live stream, actually. Occasionally, I have kind of those bot comments or inappropriate comments that I have to remove. But I actually don't really remove the unpleasant comments. Sometimes I don't think people realise how their comments come across when they're writing them and when I'm reading them as the creator. So I don't think they're always intended to come across negatively, but sometimes they do. But others are just quite mean, and some of them I just reply to and ask, you know, you don't have to watch my videos, just please go elsewhere. I mean, I'm not really a confrontational person in real life, but I feel like when I need to be, I'm quite good at being firm but fair, and I'd rather keep them up in the comment section, just so that it gives a more holistic view of what the comments are on that video. I mean, any comment is a good comment, right? It's all interaction. So yeah, oddly though, a lot of my earlier videos have had the comments removed for some reason. I don't know why that is, but I haven't had negative comments a lot. I've been very, very lucky.
I think you bring up a good point, though. I don't think people always understand the way that things come across, and we can't always interpret tone on our end either.
100%. Mm.
Yeah. I know sometimes I've read comments and I'm like, ooh, like in my head, I'm reading it with like a really mean tone, but maybe they didn't mean it that way.
Yeah,
It's really hard to
exactly.
know.
I think I just take it all with a pinch of salt, because, you know, it's if they are making the effort to interact, then that makes me think, okay, well, is it actually as negative as I think it is? But yeah, at the end of the day, I really enjoy reading the comments, and if the odd one pops up that isn't particularly pleasant, I just don't really give it much thought. So yeah,
This is a good way to look at it.
yeah.
In your recent completed pages video where you showed pages you had completed over January to April, I noticed you consistently have this really like beautiful lightness. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but there's kind of like a lightness. Um, Walk us through your process. How do you approach a page from scratch to get that sort of light or airy effect?
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's actually one of the comments I get quite a lot, about this kind of muted sense of my pages, and I'm always just so blown away by some comments that I get. Like, people can tell it's my style when they see a page that I do, and I don't really know why, because I guess I kind of see all of my pages as quite consistent in terms of color palette and the way I color, unless I'm using a different medium than I normally use. But yeah, it really means a lot. I mean, I don't really go in with the intention of creating my pages to all look the same. They kind of just end up being like that. I always try and challenge myself to add more depth and brighter colours where I can, but they kind of always just turn out with this muted style. I think what helps is this consistency is that I'm basically just a pencil colorist, which I'm sure contributes to it. But I do also enjoy using fine liners with my pencils, which I've talked about in many videos. They're some of the most popular videos, actually. I think I've done 3 videos in that series because it's something that I discovered and I really enjoy using them in conjunction with the pencil. But overall, I just like using colour palettes to try and challenge myself with colour and branch out a little bit more.
Do you use any resources for color palettes, or how do you find the color palettes that you use?
I used to use Design Seeds a lot. I'm pretty sure that website's still up. I don't think the Instagram is very active anymore. That was a great one. But Jess made a very good point in her podcast with you as well. Obviously, you only get a limited amount of colours in that. And I have the same colour palette book. In fact, I think I definitely shared it on my channel very, very early on. And yeah, it's a very good one because you do get lots of colours. But I do a mix and match. I kind of start with a starting point on my picture if I know that I want something to be a specific colour, and I kind of work from that and come up with my own colour palettes. I've done a couple of videos on this as well about how I pick my colour combinations, but I think starting with the obvious things is the easiest. If you know you want your sky to be blue, you want your grass to be green, and then there's just the other elements that kind of bring it all together and tie it all in. But I used to have really a tendency to put too many colours on the page, and now I think I'm getting slightly better with that. It's just with really detailed pages like Clara Markova or Rita Berman, when there are just so many different elements and you're kind of not forced into using loads of colours. But if you want to colour the things the way they're meant to be coloured, then you do end up with quite a bright page that's not necessarily the most cohesive, but that's obviously just personal preference and it doesn't matter either. So
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So nowadays it sounds like you do a lot more of just kind of going for it rather than necessarily finding a palette and going from there. Is that what I'm hearing?
yeah, the only time now that I really, really plan out my pages is if, it's work that I want to kind of be the best work. So my project book that I'm working on, Rita Berman's new book, I've done a whole video about how I'm making that a project book. So I've got some colour palettes that I use as a starting point specifically for that book and then branch out from there. And then things like Layla Dooley is quite nice because the flowers are realistic. I also want to make them realistic. So, by using reference photos, the colour palette's already there for you. So it does take a lot of work out of the process. But I actually do think that the planning for me takes quite a long time, which I do love. That's one of my favourite parts, trying to figure out how the page is going to come to life.
Yeah. Okay. While we're on the topic of the Rita Berman project book, though, will you tell the listeners a little bit more about what is your plan for this book? What does a project book mean to you?
I'm not taking it as kind of seriously as other people. I know some people have project books that they're intending to complete by the end of the year or within a certain time frame. I'm just seeing it more as a book that I want to really put my energy into. So I've obviously only completed 2 pages in it, both this year, but bearing in mind, because I've been very busy at uni, I've only completed about 7 or 8 pages so far this year. So for 2 of them to be in the same book, that clearly tells me that I really love it as a book. And so for me, it's just, I want to see the pages being filled up. I don't have an end goal. I just want to make sure that I am making an effort to continuously work in it. And hopefully it will get to a point where I'm doing a page in it nearly every month once I get back to, having more time to colour, which is right around the corner. So
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's so exciting. And I have to say, along the lines of just what you were saying about Rita Berman and Layla Dooley, you may be one of the few colorists I know that actually colors in their Layla Dooley books.
yes, well, I did a collaboration video with Ink and Hue Colouring about this because we really wanted to try and inspire people to actually tackle the tiny details and work in her books. I agree. I really think that she's such an underrated artist. She's a very popular artist, And I think people get the books with the intention of working in them, but then they kind of just sit on the shelf and are not worked in. And I understand why. You know, her work is very intimidating, and I still get intimidated by the Flower Year a lot, because I just think because it's that little bit smaller, it's quite hard to get into the details. Whereas even though her bigger recent books are huge, and that's also intimidating, it does give you that bit more space to blend. And I think that's why I love using fine liners with my pencils as well, because it just really helps out with that type of style.
Okay, yeah, I don't think I realized that her newer books are bigger. It's sometimes hard to tell in videos, and I only own the Flower Year. So, are you talking about like the is it Walk in the Woods? Is
Yes,
that
Walk
one
in
of
the
her
Woods
other
and the
ones?
Beautiful Planet. Yeah, basically, if you turned the Flower Year landscape, it would be double the size. So it is
Wow.
it. They are big. They're much bigger than A4. Um, but yeah, it just it gives that breathing space a bit more in the bigger books.
Interesting. Okay, I'm definitely gonna have to check them out now. That entices me a little bit more to maybe pick up some more of her books because yeah, I can see how the bigger books would give you more space to blend and stuff like
Mm,
that, like you were saying.
yeah.
You also mentioned recently in a video that tropical themed pages aren't really your thing. What other themes or styles do you tend to avoid or just not connect with?
Yeah, I definitely think with the tropical theme, I just I think because I love florals so much, it's just kind of out of that floral theme, it's the tropical themes that I don't necessarily gravitate towards as much. But having said that, I do then have a specific book on the tropical theme, The Flowerscape in Paradise by Maggie Interios, and I would quite like the tropical book by Claire Therese Gray as well. I think if there's a time and a place for it, and I do enjoy it, but just not as much as other florals. But to your point with other themes or styles, I think realistic buildings is definitely one, and I think Jess mentioned this as well. I don't know that I don't really colour buildings that much, even in the books that I do own. I'd say that probably Rita Berman's are about the only ones I actually enjoy colouring, because she has this whimsical nature to them that they look realistic but not quite. And you know, if you look at her colouring, she uses so many different colours within what, you know, if we were actually looking at the building, would be quite you know, browns and tan sort of neutral colours. But yeah, actually I think Wall Done Nature, oh gosh, I can't remember who that's by now. That's is it I can't remember. But
Is that the one that's by Rita Prince?
yes, yes, absolutely right. Yeah, I have got that book and it's untouched. But that is also the same vibe with the buildings for me. I think I could get on board with it actually enjoying colouring them. I know I said with colouring the elements of Clara Markova's and Rita Berman's books. I think in their books it's kind of food that I don't really enjoy colouring too much, because like I said, there's just I want to colour the food realistically, and if there's so many different things going on the page, then it's quite a lot. But and in terms of styles, I think anything that's too sketchy. So I have coloured some Apol and I have coloured Karolina Kupakowska quite a lot before, but I do have to be in the right mood for them. I think there's something about those that almost veers more into art rather than colouring, in terms of you're working with their line art more, because it's a bit more flowing and free. And also those Korean books with the inspiration image on the left hand side and you have the right hand side, I definitely have to be in the mood for those as well. They're not as much my thing anymore, because I feel like I'm forced into kind of colouring how they have kind of represented it. Obviously you don't have to, but I feel that that's what I need to do, and I'm not always in the mood for kind of copying something.
Yeah, and you're not the only one either, because I have heard a lot of people say that yeah, you don't have to copy the image, but it's really hard when it's like right there.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't own any of those for the same reason, just because I would have a really hard time not copying the image. And I this may be a little bit unpopular, but I think it takes away the creative freedom just a smidge
Yeah,
because I can't get that out of my mind.
I do agree. I mean, I've just done a huge destash, and I have kept some of those books in my collection. And part of me is thinking, do I am I keeping them in because they're more like art books for me? I'm not really sure, but I think I need to have another review of my books and think, well, maybe if I don't work in it again over the next year, then it might be one that I need to let go. But I do adore them. I think the artwork is stunning. You can't deny that. But yeah, I do agree with you there.
I think we think the same because I also do that. If I don't color it within the
Yeah.
next year, then it needs to be destashed. You did do a destash recently. I remember seeing the pictures on your Instagram. What were some of the thought processes behind which books you got rid of? Was there a theme to some of the books you were getting rid of besides kind of some of those ones where the picture is colored on the other side?
Mm. So I've got a video coming out with the rest of the books. So some of them I have passed on, and some of them I've still got, and I have explained a bit in that video. But essentially, I had a habit when I started of artists like Maria Troll and Kirby Rosan's, people like that. I would tend to just get all of the books, and then obviously, as we are as colorists, when the new book comes out, you're like, oh, I want to work in the new book, and then you neglect the earlier ones. And I noticed that I was like, oh, I've just racked up all of these books, and I don't actually colour in them a lot, and maybe the styles aren't as appealing to me as they used to be. And I think it's really difficult because I don't even have a huge collection. I mean, it's definitely, it might be big or small to some people. I had around 150. Um, and so it's more a space thing as well. I know I'm going to be moving out in a couple of years, and I just need to be really wary about how many books I'm taking with me. And I want to have a collection where I would be happy to colour in every book. And I definitely know that before I did the destash, that was not the case. So yeah, I'm happy with how it is now. I've got about 100 books in my active collection, and then I'm keeping about 20 books as nostalgic books, which will just be on the shelf that I'll look back on as, you know, the early part of my journey. And then the others I've destashed.
Awesome. I'm excited to hear more of your thoughts about different books when you do your video. Um, so, with that being said, I also noticed, I don't know that I see a lot of Kirby on your channel. Is that a time thing? Is it not? Does it not vibe with you? Tell me more about kind of some of those popular illustrators that we may not see as much on your
Yeah.
channel specifically.
I used to colour Kirby quite a lot. This was around 5 years ago. And I think you're right. I think it's a time thing, but also it's the same with Melpomene Chattopadhyay, and I think I'm saying her surname wrong. I think it's the darker line art that doesn't quite appeal to me so much, and people might think that I'm contradictory there because then you could argue people like Rita Berman also have a darker line art style or like a thicker line art style, but I don't know. There's something about it that's almost it puts me off because some things are almost too realistic. I think that it's different with Leila Dooley and flowers for me because I've always loved colouring flowers, so that's fine. But it's all of the realistic animals and buildings and all of the metal elements in Kirby, which I think doesn't quite appeal to me as much as it did anymore. I mean, out of the books that I think I had five. I'm keeping Imagimorphia and Fragile World, and that's it. So it's more the themes. I think that the mythical theme was something that I really wanted to try, and a few years ago I had the time to try different things that might not have necessarily been, you know, things that I was that interested in. But it was COVID. I had the chance to give them a go, and now that I am precious about my time and what I want to be doing in the time that I have for my hobbies, I know where my kind of thoughts about my favourite themes in books lie. And yeah, unfortunately, it's just, you know, my taste has changed, I think.
Which I think happens to all of us. I think our taste also evolves, right?
Yeah.
As we color. So that makes sense to me. I want to switch gears a little bit and dive into what might be considered some unpopular opinions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, is there a popular coloring supply out there that you just don't think is worth the money?
I think it's difficult because I think a lot of the kind of supplies we use for colouring we have adopted from the art world, so you know a lot of them are extremely good quality. For me, I think I'd never spend money on a full set of Copic markers. But that's partly because I don't use alcohol markers enough to warrant needing to buy them. But also, I think for colouring, it's colouring for me and not professional art. So I feel that I'm able to get fun and good results with the cheaper quality markers that I do have. Whereas with pencils, I'm prepared to spend more on good quality pencils because I want really, really good results from them. I think it's the same with Derwent Inktense for me. I know loads of people love them. I wouldn't use them in colouring books because of my style. I'm not saying that they're not fabulous quality pencils, but I wouldn't get the same use out of them as other people. So I don't think they're worth the money for me. Some people might not view that Holbeins are worth the money. I'm very, very lucky to have them. I saved for months to be able to afford those about 5 years ago, and they're probably the best, expensive purchase I've ever made. That is definitely the most expensive, colouring supply I own. But you don't necessarily need all the expensive sets. So, I have some luminants. I probably have about 50 or 60 of them that I accumulated open stock. And I love my Derwent drawing, but then I don't necessarily need the Derwent Lightfast and the Pablo pencils as well. So I think for me, I would prefer to keep buying new books and then be content with the supplies that I already have.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So when you were saving up for the Holbeins, what led you to have that kind of be the supply of like, okay, this is kind of like my gem supply. I'm going to save up for this. This is going to be probably my most expensive supply in my collection. How did you get to the conclusion that you wanted that to be Holbeins?
The pastel set really swayed me. I remember seeing a video on YouTube of an artist's three favourite sets, and it was the Pablos, the Polychromos, and the Holbein. And I think I was so intrigued. I mean, we all know how good quality all the Japanese art supplies are, and I just think that there's something about them that looks so luxurious, and the overall colour palette of the set is so good. Um, Aside from those colours, I don't think I've found another set that stacks up so well apart from the Derwent drawing. I think they are a fantastic set now that they've expanded. They give me the muted colours, the kind of earthy muted colours that the Holbeins don't necessarily provide me. So I really enjoy using them together. But I just think it was always my dream to have kind of a full set. I did have I still do have the Prismacolor set, which was a birthday present, I think maybe 2 years before I got the Holbeins, and I do still absolutely adore those. And I remember waiting for weeks and weeks before my birthday waiting to get them, but I just think that the colour palette of the Holbeins is unmatched.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to look into those. I don't know much about Holbeins. I think probably out of the content that I watch regularly, you're one of the only people I know that uses them regularly.
Mm.
So it will be
That's why I'm
interesting to.
Yeah, I am always a bit wary about. I mean, I don't really do colour alongs anyway, but I'm wary about talking about them and using them a lot because I am aware that people, not everyone has them or doesn't even want them. I think they don't work for everyone. They are quite a specific feel, I think. And I don't know how easy they are to come by now. I mean, I haven't replaced my full set. I've just bought a few open stock pencils here and there, which luckily we're able to do now because of Jackson's Art in the UK. So before that, it would have been very difficult for me to get open stock.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know as well. Okay, I want to be transparent with the listeners because I'm going to ask you a few questions that I didn't send you beforehand, Imogen, if
That's all
that's
right.
okay. So,
Absolutely.
just for the listeners, like Imogen, she has the full right to not answer any of these, but I wanted to know, do you feel like any like certain artists or illustrators or just themes in general are becoming too repetitive in the coloring community?
Oh, see, this is one that I had thoughts on when I was watching other people's unpopular opinions, and I obviously didn't have the time to be able to do that video when it was kind of circling around all of the channels. I think I did give my opinion on this with Inklings when it came out, but I do think that Joanna Basford's work is getting repetitive. Not that she's not amazing. I understand why she is doing it. It's her job at the end of the day, and she's doing what she loves. I'm really hoping that Wild Things is going to be a big departure from what she's done before, but I didn't get Wonderful Wildflowers because I already had floral books by her and I didn't colour in them enough. And if I'm colouring flowers, I'd rather do Layla Dooley florals. So I think I would like to get Magical Worlds perhaps in a French edition and explore some mixed media in there. But overall, I think if Wild Things isn't a switch up from what she's already done, I'll just be much more considered in the future about books that I pick up from her. Um, I think Hannah Carlson has never been kind of one of my top artists. I do adore her florals and her animals. I'm not really a big portrait person. She's very good at coming up with different themes for her books, but I personally feel that the repetitiveness of kind of a portrait page and then maybe some florals and then another portrait page, like for me it's not it doesn't really hit the spot. Um, but you know, I do think that other artists are very good at coming up with, you know, concrete ideas for separate books. I mean, Cabby Rosaz is definitely one of those. I'm just looking at my bookshelf and having a look. I do think Clara Markova is getting quite repetitive as well. I haven't bought her new book for that reason. And you could argue, I mean, people who aren't as much into Reese Berman books, I can see why you might not want to get them because they are quite repetitive as well in their themes. But I do think that the new book is just absolutely fantastic and very different from what she's done before.
I think you're gonna end up convincing me by the end of this, Imogen, to get her new book because I don't have it.
Oh, it's a gorgeous one.
Really, yeah, I've seen a lot of people coloring in it. I think part of it is it's just a little bit not harder to get here. I mean, I could easily get it, but it's just not necessarily the same process. I
Mm,
don't know how like widely available it is to just like jump on Amazon and order it because I know I wasn't able to get like the Europe book that way for a long time.
right.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but I see what you mean though. I you brought up Kirby and I think he really is good at coming up with new things that don't I think he had a couple books that felt a little repetitive,
Yeah,
like
Mythic
some
World
similar.
maybe and
Yeah.
Mythomorphia.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. But I do think he's good at coming up with some newer themes. I have to say the Dream Menagerie book looks like craziness.
It does. Well, it's sort of similar to the Wild Things Joanna Bassett book. I don't imagine she's doing exactly the same thing with kind of morphing two animals together, but it'll be exciting to see how they compare to each other.
Yeah, and they come out around the same time, is that
I
right?
think so. Yeah, I think so. I think
Okay.
that's one I definitely consider looking at. I'm always very intentional now about books that I'm adding to my collection. I have to watch a flip through multiple times to actually, you know, think how many pages am I realistically going to colour. But I do think Dream Menagerie is one that I will have a look at and definitely consider.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of I mean, it wasn't like a full book flip through, obviously, but somebody put a link to a flip through that had quite a few pages. And I was just like, it's cool. But I'm like, I keep thinking to myself, like, how would I feel about coloring this?
I know what you mean. We'll have to see. I'll see how I feel when it gets released.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see who picks it up and who doesn't. So since you've been in the coloring community for so long, you've probably seen kind of some different like evolutions of trends, let's say. What
Mm.
are your thoughts on this cozy coloring trend?
I can totally see why people would enjoy it. So I used to have some books that were, you know, on the simpler side that I'd just use and kind of play with alcohol markers when I wanted a break from pencils. I think for me, if I was to get a cozy colouring book, that's what it would be for. It'd be very much for just that mindless colouring where I'm not thinking about what I'm doing. Um, I think some of the stuff, I mean, I don't have TikTok, but some of the stuff I've seen on Instagram is just incredible. I mean, they are turning them into actual artworks, which is amazing. I think it just comes down to a time thing as well for me. If I'm going to put my energies into making something look like an artwork, I'd rather do it in, you know, some of my favourite artists' books. Um, but yeah, I think that it is a very repetitive genre. You probably only need a couple and then you will have a good flavour of them. And I do think it's getting harder to tell now, perhaps like what's AI and what's not. And I'm very wary of making sure that I'm just supporting real artists. But I don't know. I think there's almost a different community out there for the cozy colouring specifically, and it has come into the adult colouring community quite a bit. But I think it's a separate thing in its own right as well now.
Yeah, it's almost like it's, I don't want to say a separate community, but a little bit. It's a
Mm,
different sector of the community, I guess.
yes.
I feel like. Yeah. And again, you reserve the right not to answer, but you opened the door just a little bit because you mentioned AI. I had some family recently in Scandinavia, and they were looking for some coloring books for me. And they were sending me videos of just, I mean, shelves and shelves and shelves of cozy coloring books. And there's just no way that the majority, personally, I think there's no way that the majority of them are, hand drawn or not. AI isn't used in some form. What are your thoughts on
Mm.
that?
I I think because it's getting harder and harder to tell, it's obviously not people's fault if they're buying the book and they don't realise. I mean, I didn't really realise the impact of AI until quite recently, like how damaging it is for the environment. I did some research on it. Um, I mean, it is really bad. I used to use. I will be completely transparent. I used to use AI to generate like images for me for inspiration. So I did it with a Leon's Journey picture, and I put the picture in. I think it was the bunny with some chicks by it, and I basically said, here are my thoughts for the colours, and I want to see what the page might look like at the end product and see if I'm happy with it. And even just generating a few images is so bad for the environment. So I'm very conscious now of how I'm using AI, and I think that, in regards to artists and illustrators as real artists in comparison to the AI, I just think we need to just be as careful as we can about researching the book fully before you buy it.
That's good advice. And I appreciate you being so transparent because I think that a lot of people in the coloring community may or may not be using it in some way or another. And even if it doesn't feel like it's necessarily having an impact as they're using it, I think just you being transparent, kind of explaining more about, yeah, I was using it and I did this research and things like that, kind of opens the door for other people to think about the ways that they're using it and what their own personal opinions are on it and how they
Exactly.
want to move forward. So,
Yeah, I'm definitely sticking to like Pinterest and just Google. But even then with Google, it's really hard now because you
mm-hmm.
search something up and the first thing that comes up is an AI overview, or and it's not like we're using it intentionally. It is really quite bad now, in terms of how much it's infiltrating our lives. So yeah, I just think it's something to be quite wary of.
Yeah, and it's so hard because, like you said, like I don't even think people are necessarily intentionally using it. So
Mm.
it gets really hard. Okay, Imogen, we can go back to the less heavy stuff. um, if you could commission your absolute dream coloring book, what would the theme be and who would illustrate it?
I would take a mix of different artists, I think. So I love the circular themed style of Circle of Life by Malpomene Chattopadhyay. And I love wreaths as well. So I would take the wreaths of Makiko Inotome's work, but then I'd take the drawing styles of perhaps like both Makiko Inotome and Rita Berman, and then have like a seasonal fairy tale theme. I think I would love to see Rita Berman do a fairy tale book. I think that would be such a fun take on what she's already done, because her new book are her own characters, it's her own imaginings. So it would be interesting to see whether she would continue that and do a second book in that same style where she's coming up with her own characters, or yeah, if she was to do fairy tales. But I think something that's very wreath and scene heavy. I really love books like that, with a good variety. I think Emily Lee Torloberg really hit it on the head with fairy tales and folklore. I think that I'm not. I mean, I do work in her books quite a bit. Again, I'm not as much of a fan of the portraits, but I just think the variety we have in that book is amazing, and also the paper quality as well. So obviously I would love it to be a hardback book.
I love the Rita Berman fairy tales idea, and Jess had a fairy tales idea for RJ Hampson. So we need to like
That would be
compile
fab.
these and send it over to them.
Yeah.
As a creator who makes and consumes content, what types of videos do you enjoy filming the most versus what types of videos do you love watching the most?
So I obviously love making and watching completed pages videos the most. I love sharing my work, and also then seeing people's other amazing pages and like what they've been up to in the month. I think it's really nice seeing both monthly completed pages and kind of a combination of a few months in one video. I mean, I love long form videos, so I don't really mind how long it is. But I also love sharing my color combinations and processes for picking them. They're not as popular on my channel. It might be something that I integrate into a vlog form. And that's absolutely fine. You know, people might not be interested. I find it really interesting hearing about how other people create their pages and how they go about picking color palettes. But maybe that's just me. But yeah, I love watching hauls, but I'm also, you know, more considered with what I buy now. So I do find that they're a little bit dangerous in terms of enabling. Um, but I don't make them as much as I used to. I probably do them every 3 months now because I'm just not buying as much. But then I also love watching unusual videos on a topic where I feel like I'm learning something new, or kind of the tag videos such as yours, which spark this new imagination around the community, around a certain topic. Yeah, and in terms of a newer tip that I've picked up, I really liked Shell from Shell's Colouring Journeys tip on watering down acrylic paint pens and using them in conjunction with pencils. I think that was such a cool tip. I love coming across videos like that I was like, oh, I haven't thought about doing that before. So yeah, I think colour alongs as well get a bad rep. And I don't really know why, or maybe that people don't watch them as much as they used to. And I think that's such a shame because they are what got me into colouring in the first place through Chris Cheng. I know that she's doing more of her own artwork now versus working in colouring books, but I think they have such a valuable place in the community for newer colorists, especially, and like learning techniques. But for me personally, I prefer making tutorials rather than colour alongs. I'd find the pressure of filming a whole page quite intense, whereas I like just showing one specific element or one kind of technique on the page.
I think you made a lot of good points there. And yeah, I think I can see what you mean by liking kind of more the tutorials versus the color alongs, but also, like you said, it's a shame that more people don't follow the color alongs because I
Mm.
think a lot more people get into coloring following those than we hear about.
Yeah.
And I do think that there are some really good ones out there. I know I've followed at least one for sure. I have the page in my mind from Fragile Worlds. I think it can also be super tricky when they start to get into supplies that not a lot of people have,
Yeah,
as you kind of touched on earlier.
yeah, absolutely. No, I think back kind of gone are the days where, you know, you watch a tutorial of Chris Chang's and she's just using Prismacolor pencils. I think it is slightly different now, and you know, for I think that is really a good thing that people aren't afraid to, you know, use what they want to use on their pages. I think sometimes people used to feel like they had to stick to one set in order for the color along to be really accessible, which obviously is part of it. But then I worry that if people do that, then maybe the page won't turn out exactly how they were planning on it to, you know, for it to be content.
Yes, yeah, I agree. So while I was preparing to talk to you, I looked through your channel to kind of see the different stuff that you put out over the years. And I think, was it your very first video where you showed your completed version of Ivy and the Inky Butterfly?
Yes, yeah, that was, oh my gosh, that was such a kind of surreal video to make, because I think I released it. My first video was January 2019, and I had been recording and re-recording that video for quite a while before I actually just decided to upload it. Yeah, that book is very, very nostalgic. I definitely think that colouring that book in a year was quite crazy. It was basically the only thing that I was working on, and I had so much free time at that point in my life. But I do think that I would like to give it another go. Well, I did. I did give it another go. I bought a second copy and made the mistake of working in it from front to back again. I only got about 20 pages in, but I think I'd like to get a fresh copy, fresh start, and just work in it like any other colouring book and just work on any page and not feel kind of constrained into doing it in order because it's a story. But it will always have a special place in my heart. I think it'll be a really nice heirloom in the future, hopefully, for my family.
I love that. I love that you've one completed it and two that you're wanting to just kind of keep it as this like nostalgic memory type thing.
Yeah.
And I think it goes way beyond to just like a completed book. Like it also is connected to the very first video that you ever
Yeah,
posted too.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. If someone is out there right now listening and wanting to start their own YouTube channel for coloring, regardless of, if they're 14 or older, what advice would you give them?
I mean, obviously, I would say absolutely go for it. It's the best decision that I made to feel like I am part of the community. I would say maybe try and have your own voice or something to say. I think that's what really makes channels jump out at me when I notice either someone's particular colouring style or their way of making videos and their own ideas. I mean, I think my intention for starting my channel was just to share my hobby and the thoughts that I had, and if people wanted to listen, they could. But I think also support means so much in the beginning for channels. So I would also say for people listening who come across small channels, really give them that boost, because I know it made such a difference to me when I would get a comment on an early video. It would really, boost my confidence and think, oh yeah, this is, really fun. I want to keep doing it.
I think that is such sound advice, Imogen. And for anybody out there listening who may also just be a newer YouTube channel, please, please, please always reach out, because I know I try my best to try to find as many as I can, but that's kind of part of my creator spotlight is I want to really spotlight channels that are newer or up and coming and things like
Mm.
that, just to get the name out there and show that support. And I love supporting people that are just trying to get started and just kind of need that extra boost. I think that it's so fun.
I think that's wonderful. I think it is always so lovely when I come across a smaller channel, because obviously we have built such a kind of core group over the years. And yeah, it's so funny because obviously we're all online and it might not feel like we're all connected, but we are. And I just think that it's really nice when people feel brave enough and also, want to be part of the community.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Imogen, well, to wrap things up, we've talked a little bit about what the future for the channel looks like, possible name change coming.
Yeah.
You talked about some videos that you have up and coming. What else do you want the listeners to know about your channel in the near future?
I think I've pretty much touched on everything earlier. I think I just want to be more active again in the community. I will definitely be getting better at commenting on other people's videos and also replying to my own comments on my channel. I think that's something that's definitely been lacking for me. And I read every comment. I just don't have, I didn't have the time to get back to all of them. So I think, yeah, it's just about I want to be more active and make sure that I get my hobby that I love back to where it was 3 years ago before I went to uni. And now, obviously, I will mention this more, but I'm doing a PGCE, or my teaching qualification next year, which technically is a master's, but it shouldn't be as intense as it has been. So, hence why the schedule should go back to normal.
Awesome. Well, I am so excited for you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I appreciate just your transparency and letting me ask you some harder questions that I did not really prepare you for.
No,
Sorry
it was a
about
lot of
that.
fun. It was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me.
If any of the listeners are wondering where to find you, what are your current channel names and where can they find you?
So, Colouring Kid on YouTube and Colouring Kid on Instagram. And then my email is always in the description of all of my videos if you want to get in touch about anything.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on Beyond the Lines Coloring Podcast. I can't wait to potentially have you back on in the future if you're interested.
I would love
This was a
that.
lot of fun. So,
It really was. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
all right, Imogen, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Like I said, I cannot thank Imogen enough for coming on the podcast. She truly was such a fun guest to interview and to have on here. And I learned so much about her and her channel that I didn't know previously. So this has really been such a fun interview. Thank you again so much, Imogen, for coming on Beyond the Lines Coloring Podcast. I want to switch over to our creator spotlight for the week. And this week's creator spotlight is Tiku over at Tiku's Coloring Corner. Now, Tiku has become a really great friend to me over the last couple months. We have been doing lots of buddy colors together. I think we've done a buddy every month since either April or May. And I want to say April, but I'm not 100% sure. It was April or May. We've done a buddy color every month. Tiku has been such a great friend and such an amazing person to color with. And Tiku also has an awesome coloring channel that has all of your favorite types of videos, including completed pages, plans, unboxing videos, flip throughs, everything that you need when it comes to the coloring community. So if you haven't checked out Tiku's Coloring Corner yet, I highly recommend doing so. And like I said, Tiku has just been such a really great friend, and I've been loving their channel. I love everything that they've been putting out over there. They recently did a video about a giveaway that they won, and Tiku was talking about how they never win anything. And I was like, that is me. I also never win anything. So I'm so glad that Tiku did win a giveaway. That is so exciting. But yes, please go check out Tiku's Coloring Corner if you haven't done so already. Let's move into my favorites of the week before we wrap up. Now, I have three favorites of the week. So, yeah, there was just three things that I really enjoyed over the past week, and I wanted to share them with you guys. The first is Distress Oxides. Now, if you are a friend of the YouTube channel, you know that I've owned Distress inks for a while, and I do use them occasionally, but probably not very often. They're not my go-to background supply, but I will use them sometimes. However, I do find them kind of hard to apply, a little bit finicky. I still don't really know that I've figured out how to use them in a way that gives the result that I want. However, I was watching a video by Color with Claire. I'll make sure to link her in the description. And she was talking about Distress Oxide, which is different from the Distress ink. And she was talking about how they're much creamier feeling. And I wanted to try them out because the way she was describing them made me think they might be a little bit easier to apply and they might give an effect that I'm looking for. So I was able to go over to Michael's and they were having a buy one, get one 50% off sale. They aren't having that sale anymore, but if you do shop at Michael's or have one in your area, I recommend keeping an eye out if you're interested in getting the Distress Oxides because they most likely will have that sale again in the future. But I was able to get a couple colors on during that sale and that made it a lot easier because they are honestly guys, they're a little pricey for what they are. I'll just be completely transparent about that. I don't think that they need to be priced as high as they are. They're on the pricier end, but I really wanted to try them. And so I'm glad that I was able to get them during that sale. And I have tried them on a couple different pages now that you'll see in my completed pages videos at the end of the month. And I really like them. The way that Claire described them was exactly my experience. They feel a lot creamier, so to speak, and they're just easier to apply to the page. They also give a smoother effect, I feel like, which is more of the look that I'm going for when I use something like that. So those are my first favorite of the week. Highly recommend trying out Distress Oxide. However, I do not recommend just going over to like Amazon or something and buying them straight out. Keep an eye out at Michael's and you can buy them just one at a time. They're the bigger pads. So there you can buy a couple colors if Michael's has another sale. That would be my recommendation on how to start trying those out if you're interested. My other favorite of the week is a new book to me, which is A Little Luna Sanctuary. This is by Christy over at Women Sage. I've heard this talked about a lot in the coloring community recently, so I'm sure you all are aware of it, but it is such a cute book. I got the PDF version and printed it out on my own paper, and I am just loving it so far. It's such a unique style. I don't personally have anything else like it in my collection, I don't think. So I've already started a page in there. I don't know if it's a page I'll have done by the end of the month, but if I don't finish it this month, I will definitely be working on it next month. And I can't wait to start and complete more pages in that book as well. It's just such an amazing book. And she had something really unique at the beginning that was kind of based off of like, if you're feeling this way, here are pages that you could color that kind of fit that mood. I've never seen that in a coloring book before. That was totally unique and I loved it. I think it's so great. The last thing that is one of my favorites of the week is not at all coloring related. And I don't get anything for talking about it. It's just something that I like to share because I think it's a great product. If you've been on any of my live streams, or sometimes I talk about them in my videos, I really like the brand Just Ingredients. I usually have one of their energy drinks in my videos or live streams, but I recently found out, well, not found out, but I recently found some of their sparkling electrolytes in the store as well, and those are super good too. Honestly, I haven't had one of their products that's not good, and I buy a lot of their products. So again, I don't get anything for talking about them. They're just a really great company that um they're getting bigger and bigger. But if you haven't heard of them or you're interested in like energy drinks or electrolytes or protein powders, or I mean they have so many different products, but if you're interested in products that use real food, I highly recommend checking out Just Ingredients. I don't know how accessible they are globally, but they're pretty accessible here in the US if that is something that you're interested in. I'm loving, like I said, the sparkling electrolytes. I don't drink soda, so when I'm kind of craving that carbonation feeling, this is a great alternative because it has kind of that bubbly carbonation feel and also has electrolytes in it so you can get your electrolytes in. So, I'm trying to think of the flavor that I had recently. I feel like it was like guava something, guava mango maybe. But anyways, they have a lot of good flavors and yeah, you guys already know. Again, if you watch my live streams or have seen some of my videos that I love, love, love their energy drinks and they just announced that they're coming out with some new flavors. So, those will be fun to try as well. All right, guys. Well, those are my favorites of the week. And that is it for this podcast episode. Again, I hope that you thoroughly enjoyed this interview with Imogen as much as I did. And I will see you guys in a couple weeks. Happy coloring, everybody. And